Alright my friends, today we're doing the highest armor class possible in Baldur's Gate 3. This character's armor class is so high that even if you took the enemy in the game with the highest attack bonus and doubled their attack bonus, it would still be physically impossible for them to hit us no matter what they roll on the die. We're going to be completely invincible to any physical damage, so let's get building. Hello my friends, and welcome back to another Baldur's Gate 3 character building guide. Hope you're all doing well. Today, we are building the character with the highest possible armor class in Baldur's Gate 3, a character that can literally never be hit by an enemy attack in combat. Just walking around, we're going to have an AC value of 37, which is already high enough that there's no enemy in the game that can actually hit us with an attack. And if we want to style on them, we can boost our AC to a theoretical maximum value of 58 armor class. One of the funny things about this character is that a lot of the time when you do this kind of theoretical optimization, trying to just boost one value as high as possible, you end up with a build that's not really playable or has to do a bunch of nonsense in order to hit that number. But this character actually is a totally functional and powerful character all the way through the game, with great offensive options in addition to the ridiculous armor class that we get. So not only are we invincible to enemy attacks, we're also just a pretty strong character that you could absolutely play through an honor mode run. Alright, let's get to the build. What character or race we pick for this build mostly doesn't matter. There's no companions that get a bonus to their armor class, and there's no races that give you a bonus to your armor class, so you can use this build on any race and it will work just as well. The best one to pick is almost certainly Gnome, although Halfling is also very good, because Gnome's advantage on mental saving throws is very useful for this build. Obviously, when enemies cannot hit you with attacks at all, the only thing that you're worried about is saving throw targeting effects, and Gnome gets advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saves, so is much more likely to pass those saves. Now, it's also true that most enemies that target you with saving throw targeting effects have to actually attack you to finish you off. They'll stun you, do some damage, but they'll eventually run out of resources to hit you with those saving throw targeting spells or whatever, and then they'll have to attack you. And most enemies simply won't do that. They cannot hit you, so they won't spend their turn attacking, and will often just give up and pass the turn over and over, allowing you to kill them at your leisure. But Gnome will help avoid getting in that circumstance in the first place. Halfling's ability to reroll ones works on saving throws and is very similar, and just makes the character a little more consistent overall as well. So either of those would be my pick from an optimization perspective, but like I said, it mostly doesn't matter. Because this build is going to be multi-classing quite heavily, what class we start with is actually an open question. When I'm building this character, I'm going to prioritize getting our AC as high as possible, as early as possible, so we both end up with the highest possible endgame total, but also keep incredibly high AC throughout the entire game. To that end, the first class level that we're going to take is Fighter. Of course, this character wants weapon, shield, and armor proficiencies, because we're going to need armor and shields in order to increase our armor class as much as possible, and Fighter also gives us access to a fighting style, which can be Defense. When we want to boost our AC, a +1 bonus that stacks with every other type of additional bonus to your armor class is, of course, critical, so we need to get Defense fighting style right away. When you start as a fighter, you can have the starting medium armor from Lazels, or a 15 AC medium armor, plus a shield, plus the defense fighting style. As long as you have at least 14 dexterity, and of course we're going to have higher than 14 dexterity, that gives you 17 AC, plus 1 from defense, plus 2 from your shield. So you start the game with 20 armor class. At the beginning of the game, you are going to be very, very difficult to hit. There's very few enemies that can reliably hit a 20. So already we're very hard to hit, and of course it's just going to get better very, very quickly right from here. For our ability score selection, we have to do a pretty specific set of ability scores, but we also get at least one decision that we're going to make at this point. This character can serve as your party face. You can do dialogue checks with this character because we get all the skills, we get a lot of skill access, and we get all the cantrips that make you better at dialogue checks. So you can have this character be your party face, or if you have another character that you prefer not to be a party face, then this character can just invest in more defensive stats. I'll show you both attribute splits, so you can decide whether you want to invest in charisma or not in order to make this character better at dialogue. Of course, we are going to take 17 in dexterity, since that boosts our armor class. This is going to let us get the highest possible dexterity bonus using only a single feat, and that will let us boost our AC even further. We'll take 14 constitution, because this character, while it won't take damage from attacks for most of the game, because our AC will quickly scale past the point of enemies being able to hit us at all, you can still take damage from saving throw targeting effects, and this character still does want some hit points, so having 14 constitution gives us a nice safety buffer to keep the character alive in the early game, and then later on from non-attack based sources of damage. We need at least 12 intelligence in order to be able to prepare 2 wizard spells. We're only taking 1 level of wizard, but there's 2 different wizard spells that we want to have prepared to be able to cast. And so in order to do that, we need at least a +1 bonus in intelligence, so we're going to be taking 12 intelligence. You can't use the circlet of intelligence for this character, the warped headband of intellect, because our helmet slot is spoken for by another item that improves our armor class. Finally, we have to decide if we want to invest in charisma. If we want this character to be our party face, then we can take 14 charisma. In combination with all of the proficiencies and all the cantrips that boost it, that'll make this character totally reasonable at dialogue. Otherwise, we can leave charisma at 8 and just boost wisdom and intelligence further, or take 16 constitution to make the character a little bit better at our defensive stats. I'm going to show you the charisma-based version of this character here, because I kind of like that the character can perform utility as well as just being impossible to kill, but either way will work, and you can just take these points in charisma out and invest them in combat stats if you prefer that. For our skill selection here, the only one that really matters is that we take acrobatics. You can get the relevant dialogue skills later, though of course if you have a background that gives you proficiency in those dialogue skills, then that means one that you don't have to take later on from levels. But acrobatics, again, one of the only ways this character can actually be affected by enemies is by being shoved, because that doesn't target your armor class. It's an acrobatics check that you have to make. It's an acrobatics check. So you just want that to be as high as possible to give enemies even fewer avenues to actually hurt your character. Other than that, no decisions to make at level 1, so let's move on to level 2. At character level 2, we are immediately multi-classing. Again, we have a lot of different decisions that we could make here about which class to multi-class into next, but I'm again going to focus on increasing our AC the most every level, so we're going to take a level in Cleric. Cleric gives us access to the Shield of Faith spell, which is a day-long concentration spell that increases our AC by 2, so we boost our current AC from 20 to 22 when we get access to Shield of Faith. With 22 AC, we're very unlikely to lose concentration on this spell, so it's going to be very hard for us to actually... So we'll have it all day, and so that will compound on itself, making it harder to lose concentration. This character can be extremely tanky right from the very beginning. For our cantrip selection here, we're going to take guidance and resistance, because resistance actually kind of useful for this character, since saving throws are the only thing that can actually get us, so having resistance available can make you better at avoiding that. And then we're going to take thaumaturgy, because we're the party face. If you're not playing the party face build, you can spend this third cantrip wherever, just on anything that gives you utility, maybe bleed ward for more defensive stats in the early game. For our subclass here, we're going to take light domain. We don't need heavy armor proficiency, we got that from fighter, and light domain gives us warding flare. Now obviously, to boost our AC as much as possible, the reaction we're normally going to be using is shield, more on that in next level, but warding flare means that enemies have disadvantage on attacks once per round. With 22 AC, that means that already at second level, we're just never getting hit, so this character is very, very hard to actually hit. For our prepared spells, of course, we're taking Shield of Faith. We can only prepare 1 Cleric spell at this level, and then we get a couple extra skills that we can put points into to make us a little bit better at dialogue. Part of why I enjoy having this character as the party face is you get all these intelligence skills. That's it for level 2. Let's go to level 3. Character level 3, you guessed it, we're multi-classing again. The class we're going to take here is Wizard. Wizard is going to give us the Shield spell, which is going to make us even tankier, of course, and will boost our AC by up to +5 when an enemy would hit us with an attack. Now, very quickly, we're going to reach the point where enemies can't hit us with attacks, even without the shield spell. And since the game only ever prompts you to activate shield if it would turn a hit into a miss, you will quickly stop being able to activate shield. So it's pretty funny, the theoretical highest armor class that this character can reach, the 58 armor class that we're going to end the game with, you can only get if an enemy targets you with magic missile, because otherwise you will not be able to activate shield. But for the highest possible AC, of course we need it. For our spell selection here, the only one that really matters is shield, so we're going to grab that. Any other abilities that you get here are mostly irrelevant, but you can pick up the utility spells that you would normally want from your wizard regardless. Maybe pick up Sleep to give you another combat option, Fog Cloud because it doesn't have a saving throw. For our prepared spells at this level, the only important one is shield, so this could be your Long Strider caster or whatever. At character level 4, you guessed it, we're multiclassing again. This time, we're going to be taking a level of Bard. At 3rd level Bard, we can take Swords Bard, which gives us yet another way to increase our armor class, so we need to take levels of Bard in order to reach that. For our cantrip selection here as a Bard, we're going to make sure that we have Friends to be a better party face, but we can take sort of whatever cantrips, whatever utility cantrips or defensive cantrips we haven't picked up from levels in other classes. Blade Ward, Minor Illusion, things like that are always good. For our spell selection here, we are using primarily a bow and our wizard spells at this point. Of course, as a 3rd level spellcaster, because we have 1 level in Cleric, Wizard, and Bard, we can learn up to 2nd level wizard spells. So we're mostly going to be using Cloud of Daggers if we want to do damage. Obviously, that means dropping concentration on Shield of Faith, but if you're actually playing this character through the game, then sometimes you do need to actually kill stuff, or just shooting things with a bow, throwing grenades and bombs and stuff. But because we're taking relatively low charisma, we don't want to take cantrips, spells that rely on our charisma in order to hit or have enemies pass saving throws. So we're going to be avoiding spells with saving throws or hit chances as we level up. For that reason, we're going to take primarily utility spells, things like Healing Word that we're always going to be wanting to keep our allies alive, things like Disguise Self to make us better at just going through the game with dialogue selections, maybe Speak with Animals and Featherfall, just a bunch of different utility spells, because at this point our combat capabilities are going to be primarily using our archery and any wizard spells that we want to spend some time concentrating on that don't require us to have high intelligence to get the most out of them. Of course, as with every bard, if we don't pick the correct instrument, we completely ruin our run, so make absolutely certain that you get this right. And then for our ability selection, we'll just add in another dialogue skill. If you aren't using this as the party face, then this character can just learn Perception or any other skill that just gives your party a little boost overall. Usually I would select Perception here because every party should have that. That's it for our first bard level. Let's keep leveling up. At level 5, we're taking our second level of bard. No major decisions to make at this level, but of course we get Song of Rest for additional short rest actions. That's going to make us, or additional short rests, that's going to make us even better at activating all of our abilities that require us to use a short rest that boost our armor class. For our spells at this level, again, what we're taking here mostly doesn't matter. Focus on utility spells in order to make your party stronger, because our combat options are not coming from our spells, they're coming from our archery. At character level 6, we're taking our third level of Bard, and we get our Bardic subclass, and can boost our armor class even further. The subclass that we're taking is College of Swords, which gives us Defensive Flourish. Defensive Flourish gives us +4 to our armor class for 1 turn when we activate it. So as long as we're using Defensive Flourish, we have a +4 bonus to our AC, and that's going to get us the highest possible AC. We can only use this a limited number of times per day, but it's enough that we can activate it very frequently, and so anytime we're actually in combat, we should be able to have this activated. This gives us, at this level, assuming that we have just a 16 AC medium armor, like we're using the adamantine scale for a base of 18 armor class. We have that, we have 2 from Shield of Faith, and 1 from the defense fighting style. That's 21. Then we get +2 from Shield, from a shield, wearing a shield, for 23, plus 5 from the shield spell for 28, and plus 4 from defensive flourish for 32 AC. We're already at the point where no enemies in Act 1 or 2 can hit us when we've activated all of our abilities. And even the Act 3 enemies are going to struggle significantly to be able to hit this character. But of course, and that's without even including any items or temporary buffs that we might get. And of course, that's going to boost our AC even further. We also get a fighting style here. We're going to take the dueling fighting style because we will be using a one-handed weapon and shield, and might as well get a little bit more damage if we actually attack with it, which we usually won't, but, you know, can't hurt to have it. And then for our spell selection here, again, we're going for utility spells. We could take Cloud of Daggers for if we don't want to concentrate on Shield of Faith as another combat option, but we probably have learned that from Wizard. I'm just going to recommend taking Enhance Ability to make our character even better at dialogue checks if we need to make those. At level 7, we get our first feat, which obviously comes somewhat late, but that's okay because this character can't die, so it doesn't really matter if we do very little damage up to this point. And we're going to take an ability score improvement to boost our dexterity up to 19. With Ethel's Hair, of course, this gets us to 20 armor class, or 20 dexterity, which boosts our AC by 5 if we're using one of the uncapped medium armors or a light or cloth armor, so that's going to boost our AC as much as possible. There's a couple other feats that are worth talking about that I'll talk about when we get to the next level, but an ability improvement for our dex is going to be the most bonus to AC that we can get at this point. For our cantrip selection at this level, of course, we're going to take True Strike, because obviously we need to be able to hit things, even if our opponents can't. And then for our spells here, again, focus on utility. Our damage is going to come from just plinking enemies down with arrows over time while they stare helplessly at us. At this point, the core character combination is actually online. We've got all of the abilities that we really need in order to boost our armor class. We can, of course, improve the character much further, and I'm going to recommend just continuing to level in Bard. That gets us Bard utility spells. We, of course, need to get more feats, so we want to take at least 4 more levels in a single class at this point. And just leveling Bard also is going to give us 6th level Wizard spellcasting, because with 1 Cleric level, 9 Bard levels, and 1 Wizard level, we're going to maximize our caster level and be able to learn and cast 6th level spells from scrolls. For our spell selection at this level, again, we're focusing on utility spells, but we can pick up Plant Growth. This does not require a saving throw and helps lock down enemies, so if our allies need help, then that lets us do that. Then, at character level 9, we're going to take another level of Bard. Of course, previous level, we also got the ability to restore our inspiration dice on a short rest, so that gives us many more defensive flourishes per day, so we're going to be maximizing our ability to reach the maximum possible AC as much as we can as well. At this level, we get extra attack, so the character starts outputting a little bit more damage. Obviously, this isn't a damage-focused character, but is still going to do quite a bit of damage. Just from firing a bow, because we will have good dexterity and can attack multiple times per turn. And then for our spell selection here, go back for whatever utility spell your party might happen to need. At character level 10, we're taking our 7th level of Bard, which gives us even more powerful spell casting. Of course, at this point, we have 5th level wizard spells from scrolls, so we can also be using those as much as we want. Obviously, we won't be able to prepare all of them at any given time, but we can still cycle them in and out for utility spells. Or if you took the lower charisma attribute split, you could have more intelligence to get 1 or 2 more prepared wizard spells to actually use in combat. At this level, we're going to grab freedom of movement. This character, being paralyzed or restrained can potentially cause the character to suffer. If you get paralyzed in a hazardous location, for example, you could start taking damage. We're basically locking off the edge cases under which we can possibly get hurt at this point, since our armor class is going to be so high that no enemy in the game can possibly hit us. At character level 11, we get a second feat, and what feat we take here actually mostly doesn't matter. There is one feat that increases your armor class further, and that feat is Defensive Duelist, which will allow you to use a reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your AC, possibly causing the attack to miss. The problem with Defensive Duelist is that the weapon we want to use isn't finesse. Now, there's another finesse weapon that we could use in order to be able to activate Defensive Duelist. And conveniently, if we are using the Duelist prerogative, that would give us a second reaction to be able to activate Defensive Duelist and Shield, both in the same turn, because we'd have two reactions, so we could use both. The issue with Defensive Duelist is that it is physically impossible to cast this ability with this character. There are no enemies in the game that can hit our armor class, and Defensive Duelist only activates if you would be hit by an attack. The game will only ever prompt you to react with Defensive Duelist if you would be hit. So you literally cannot use this ability because you are too powerful to be able to activate it. I just think that's really funny. We're probably just going to take the feat anyways, just because I think that's kind of hilarious. You could also just take another feat, like, for example, taking a saving throw proficiency in Wisdom could be very useful. If you take Resilient for Wisdom, then that can make your character more resilient in order to prevent things from going wrong. You could take Lucky for the same reason. So those are the ones that actually make your character more powerful. I just think it's really funny that this character is so strong that we literally cannot use Defensive Duelist. So I wanted to bring that one up. For our spell selection at this level, again, utility spells, anything that your party needs, this character can bring to the table as a bard spell. And then we're moving on to our final level. And at this level, we're going to take Bard level 9, getting access to 6th level spells from Wizard Scrolls, which again, we won't be able to use frequently because our intelligence isn't high enough to prepare a lot of them, but it gives the character more utility for the times when you aren't preparing the wizard spells that max your AC, because you don't actually need to. Our passive AC is high enough, there is no enemy that can hit our AC, but having access to 6th level wizard spells will give you an option for actually playing the character more than just hitting the theoretical maximums. Spell selection at this level, again, mostly not relevant, but you can again take a utility spell that you think you might need. Anything that your party could potentially use at this point is good to have as a backup option. All right, that's the build, but of course the core of our combination comes from selecting the right items and abilities here, so let's talk about those. To boost our armor class to the maximum possible value, of course we're going to be using a number of items. Firstly, we're going to be using the Armor of Agility. This gives us 17 base armor class. In combination with our 22 dexterity, which we get from having 19 that we got from leveling up, 1 from consuming Ethel's hair, and 2 from the Mirror of Loss, so story events that will happen throughout the game, this gives us a base armor class of 24. You can see here I've used cheats because I hadn't done those things in this playthrough, but you can get those increases to dex in-game. It's technically possible to get to 24 dexterity, but it requires an item that conflicts with another item that we're going to be using for its slot here. So it actually, whether you use the Nimble Finger Gloves for 24 dex or the Wondrous Gloves, as I'm going to demonstrate here, ends up giving you the same overall armor class. In addition to the 24 base armor class that we have, we're going to be adding the Evasive Shoes, bringing us up to 25, the Wondrous Gloves, for 26, Cloak of Protection for 27, and the Helm of Baldurin for 28. The Ring of Protection brings us to 29, and the Defender's Flail, which gives you +1 to your armor class, brings you up to 30. We can then add a shield, and there are +3 shields in the game that give us 33. The +3 shield is the best that we can get here because there used to be a shield that gave you +4 armor class, Hope's Shield from the House of Hope. Unfortunately, that shield has been patched out of the game. It no longer drops. So the +3 shield is the best we can get. If you're on a save that you made with that item from before that patch removed it, then you can get 1 more armor class than we're going to demonstrate here. Next, we're going to do some buffing. So firstly, of course, we're going to be casting Shield of Faith on ourselves in order to gain +2 armor class. This brings our AC from 33 up to 35, giving us even more AC. And of course, because we have 35 AC, the likelihood of us losing concentration on Shield of Faith is very low. So we should usually have this for the entire day, and we've got lots of spell slots to refresh it if it happens to fall off. Next up, we're going to have an ally cast Warding Bond on us, which will give us yet another armor class. This brings us up to 36 and will last for the entire day, so now we have 36 AC. This is an important breakpoint because the enemy in the game with the highest bonus to hit is a plus 16 attack bonus to hit. That means that this enemy could only hit us with 36 AC on a natural 20, except that we also have critical hit immunity. Critical hit immunity in Baldur's Gate works in a sort of funny way and a slightly counterintuitive way. How it works is if an enemy rolls what would be a critical hit, they then have to just re-roll that die until it's no longer a critical hit. So if the dominated red dragon hits us with its plus 16 bonus and gets a natural 20, it then has to just keep re-rolling that until it gets a 19 or lower. What that means is that with 36 AC, there is no enemy in the game, no matter your difficulty setting. The attack bonuses are all 2 lower on difficulty settings lower than Tactician as well, so you only have to beat 34 AC. But with 36 AC, there is no enemy in the game that can hit this character with an attack. It's not possible. So already we're at that point. But of course, we want to go even higher. Let's add some temporary or conditional buffs. Firstly, the Ring of Twilight gives us a +1 AC bonus while obscured, so if we are in a darkened area, we can go up to 37 AC. Next, having an ally cast haste on us or drinking a potion of speed will give us +2 additional armor class, so let's go ahead and do that to go up to 39. This character is now even more unhittable than we were before. We need to use a potion of speed or have an ally cast haste because, of course, we are already concentrating on Shield of Faith and you can't concentrate on both. Next up, Mirror Image. Mirror Image gives us 9 additional armor class. Now, this is going to go away pretty quickly because every time an enemy attacks us, one of the mirror images is going to disappear. So our armor class is going to be decreased whenever an enemy misses us with an attack. Now, the fact that enemies cannot hit us means they actually won't attack us that frequently, so we will often be able to get away with keeping our mirror images and having our maximized AC for even higher for even longer than we would otherwise. Next up, let's do a Defensive Flourish in order to boost our AC even further, so we're going to go ahead and hit Defensive Flourish. As long as we hit this attack, this gives us a further +4 AC, boosting us to 52. We can get up to 57 if we have an ally cast Magic Missile on us. So we're going to go ahead and just cast Magic Missile. We're going to activate Shield, which is then going to boost our armor class to the maximum value, with a little bit of lag here, of 57. If we could somehow trigger Defensive Duelist to go off, then we would lose 1 from the Defender Flail, because we'd have to remove 1 AC, so that would drop us to 56, but we could get up to 60 if we could somehow trigger Defensive Duelist to go off. Unfortunately, it's not actually possible to do that. Maybe if we took off our equipment, got Defensive Duelist to happen, and then put everything back on really quick somehow, but you don't have enough actions for that to actually work. So 57 is the highest possible armor class in Baldur's Gate 3. Alright, my friends, this has been a really fun exercise. If you can think of any way to improve our AC even further, of course we can get up to 58 if you still have Hope's Shield in your save, but it's not possible in the current version of the game. But if you can think of any way to increase our AC even further, let me know, and I'll include it in a pinned comment below. This is everything that I've been able to figure out to boost our AC high, but of course there may be things that I'm missing. There's a couple alternate ways to get to 57 as well. Instead of the Wondrous Gloves, we could use the Nimble Finger Gloves for +2 dexterity. That's basically the same +1 armor class so that the Wondrous Gloves give you, so that will also get you to 57. You can get to 56 by using by being a barbarian and using the Amulet of Health to get to 23 Constitution for a +6 bonus and having 22 dexterity. So that will give you 56 armor class, but the Armor of Agility is going to be better. So even with the Amulet of Health, you and Barbarian unarmored armor class, you can't hit quite as high of a value. So those are the other ways that I have considered, but definitely let me know if you can think of a way to boost our AC even further. Not that we need to, because we're already more than high enough that enemies cannot possibly hit us under any circumstances that can occur in the game. Alright, my friends, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if this is the type of thing that you want to see, this sort of theoretical optimization exercise. If you enjoyed this one, then, of course, I would appreciate hearing about it, and leave a like, leave a comment. Those things help out with the algorithm, so of course I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And you can subscribe to my channel for more Baldur's Gate 3 builds and other strategy game analysis. Cheers, my friends, and I will catch you next time.